I have a couple of questions that came in this week that I'm going to address, and then I'm going to move on to a little overview. I wanted to talk about, we gave so much attention to square root last month, so I wanted to talk about sugar pie. So I'm going to dive in. I'm going to share my screen real quick here. Let's see. There we go. Can you all see?
Yes, we can. Looks good.
Okay, so okay. So some of the questions that we received this week, real big one. I'm going to start off right away with this one. So somebody wrote in and said, we noticed that there is isopropyl alcohol on the conditioner label for both the volume actually and the infinity conditioners. So first thing I want to say is there is actually no alcohol in the formula. So the reason that this is on the label is because it was used in the actual manufacturing of one of the ingredients, and that is bihydramonium chloride. So if you go to any store, any drugstore, Sephora, anywhere, and pick up any conditioner, you're going to see bihydramonium chloride. The only other main ingredient that you could use to get this kind of activity, because it's such a good conditioner, would be bihydramonium methosulfate, which a lot of people don't tend to use because it has the word sulfate in there. So really this is a very, very, very commonly used conditioning agent. And it's actually not required that you list alcohol on the label, because by the time they finish actually making the ingredient, the alcohol is gone. And believe it or not, this is actually pretty common in the manufacturing of different hair care and skincare ingredients. It's what's called a processing aid or a manufacturing aid. It's not required to be on our label. It essentially ended up there because we are very, very detailed, very, very transparent. However, based on the feedback, we are going to take it off. It's not required to be there. It's not in the formula. By the time it even gets to our facility, there's no alcohol. It's completely evaporated during the manufacturing process. So you do not have to worry about, alcohol potentially drying out your hair. So that being said, we are also actively investigating alternatives, working with different companies to see if they can use different processing aids to actually make this ingredient, because we just know that it's something that people aren't really excited about, and we're always looking to improve our formulation. So we are actively working on that. And so in the future, you're going to see it drop off the label. Again, not required to be there. But if you pick up any other, product in the store that has that ingredient, they, technically could list alcohol on there as well. They're not. It's all the same thing. They're just, it's evaporated, so they don't list it. So that is that. Oh, also, I know I mentioned that alcohol is used to, to make different ingredients. One really common one actually is organic extracts, because alcohol can actually be organic. And when you're making something organic, everything has to be certified organic. So believe it or not, a lot of organic products, if you look at them, actually have alcohol in them. And again, it's the processing. It's actually the extraction method that they use to actually pull out a lot of the different kind of ingredients from the plant. So something to keep in mind. It's commonly used and it's gone by the time you use the product. So the next question I have, any cases where square root won't cause hair growth? So it's pretty uncommon for us to get comments like that, but it's entirely possible. Everybody has, kind of different experience, different reactions to different products. Some people, it's just crazy. They get crazy hair thickening immediately. Some people it takes longer, and some people don't really see much at all. Some people feel like it's kind of the same, but maybe they're experiencing more hair retention. like as we age and just over time, our hair tends to um, fall out and grow thinner. And so, what Square Root can do is just prevent that hair fall, help to anchor the hair in the scalp, and help you to, maintain your hair. So it might not seem dramatic, but again, you could be having more anchoring, healthier scalp, and just kind of maintaining. Is sugar pie safe for diabetics to use? So again, this is something where I would probably, tell them to check with their doctor. Typically, most concerns for diabetics are more skin related. So, I seeing as you're putting sugar pie on your hair and only on your hair, I don't see why there would be any issue with that. Um, However, I think it's always a good idea to check with your doctor. Another question we got was about itchy scalp using the method in Infinity. So, itching can mean a lot of different things. Itching can be, irritation, it could be an allergy, it could be dryness. And especially this time of year, we are experiencing really low humidity and a lot of dryness, even stress. So, there are a lot of factors that could be playing into why you might experience itching. That being said, you could always check with your doctor. They might be able to look and say, okay, it's itching, but there's no redness, so it's not likely a reaction, or be able to see if it's dry and make recommendations. Um, there's nothing really in the products that would, cause your scalp to be drier. It's more likely the changing weather and the lower humidity, but everybody has different reactions, everybody has different sensitivities, and I always think it's a good thing, if you can check with your dermatologist, just to be clear, because there are a lot of reasons that you could be itching. And we had another question about the benefits of square root for thicker hair. So square root, of course, is always recommended for, finer thinning hair. It gives a little more kind of that instant umph, and then it helps to nourish the follicles and create more hair growth. But in, people who have thicker hair, they're like, why should I use it? And I would say that it's like skincare for your scalp. It's got hyaluronic acid. It's got so many great ingredients that really just nourish and support your scalp health and also help to anchor the hair. So you're going to get less breakage around the root. So, you know, I don't think that somebody with thick hair is going to get a lot thicker hair just because of the activity and the pathways that square root acts on. It's acting on pathways that in general are weakened either to inflammation or hormonal changes. And if you don't have those, then you're not going to get, you're not going to experience a lot of thickening. So, I would say if that's what they're worried about, I don't think that that's going to be an issue for them. But in terms of what they can benefit from, it's something that's just really good for your scalp and really good for your skin barrier. And our scalp doesn't get enough attention, I think. So, and it can also help with the hair color as well, which can still be a concern for people with thick hair. And then we got a question about using conditioners and oils on your hair and then using heat, and how, there's some information out there that says that if you apply an oil to your hair and then heat it up, that it could fry it. Think like oil in a pan, cooking food, that kind of analogy. And it's just not true. It's a huge, broad generalization because there's so many oils out there and so many conditioners. And in terms of, conditioners versus masks versus leave-in conditioners, they may have different actives in there to help either to rinse out, with aligning the hair, or if you're leaving it in to help protect from heat. But really, the basis of the formulas are very similar. They use the same conditioning ingredients. So a leave-in conditioner is not that different from a rinse out conditioner, other than the specific actives that are targeting however you're going to style your hair. So to say that a conditioner that you rinse out couldn't be left on and then heated is not true. The same with oils and saying that they could fry your hair. Um, Again, just not true. The oils really do protect your hair. Any oil will protect your hair from heat. Um, and I know that oil is used to cook foods, but this is kind of a weird image. But if you imagine like cutting off some hair and putting it in oil and in a frying pan, it's not like it's again, that's a really weird analogy, but it would be fine. Um, so so yeah, there's so much good data on different oils and different conditioners and different ingredients that protect the hair. And I suspect, I will say, there's some information too about water, really hot water. Basically, if you leave your hair wet and then use a flat iron on it, I mean, that's generally not good. You always want to blow dry your hair at a lower heat and get the moisture out before you heat style it. And I would say that that's more of a correct, um, you know, uh, thing to say about how you might damage the hair by putting something on it or drying it when you have a certain ingredient on it. But in general, we're not flat ironing our wet hair. So I think we're good there. And I will say, the sugar pie especially has really great data for heat protection. It also doesn't really have any oils in it, like plant oils. So a very, very, very low percentage actually. But for the most part, it is, um, it's actually the sugar derived alkane, which I will talk about more in a minute here. Um, but I'm going to dive into kind of the rest of the presentation here. Thank you all for your questions. So, sugar pie. We talked so much about square root last week, so I wanted to give a little love for sugar pie and, in honor of Valentine's Day. And it's something that we haven't like really dived in, I think, deep to the science. So, I wanted to get a little nerdy with you guys. So, something really cool about this, the formula, the sugar derived alkane. So, it's if you it's infused with vitamin C, and it's a really, really unique, very stable vitamin C oil. So we're really excited to actually be able to use this in hair care because for the most part, hair care products are water based, and you can't really, infuse as much of this active vitamin C in it. So we were excited to get an opportunity to use something where we could really, really use a high level of that vitamin C within this sugar derived system. So the vitamin C actually makes the hair hydrophobic. So that's something that we haven't really talked about. Damaged hair tends to be hydrophilic. It likes water, it absorbs water. It's kind of like a sponge, basically. And that's what causes it to frizz up and get poofy and look, damaged and brittle. So, what you want is to make your hair more hydrophobic. And that is what the vitamin C in sugar form does. And we kind of have, like a fancy kind of chemical reaction that happens here with the amine bonds with the hair and the vitamin C. But what you can see is that it just makes it tamer. It reduces the frizz, makes it shinier, makes it more aligned, makes it healthier, and also helps to smooth out those split ends. So originally, when we were looking at this formula, actually, we were thinking about it more as, because of the data, as something that allowed you to get that kind of frizz-free look without heat styling your hair. So we had nicknamed it before the no heat serum because you could actually put it on your hair and it could get really smooth and frizz-free without you having to heat it up. So, but not everybody, wants to air dry their hair, but it is, it's kind of like a fun little side effect. If you do want to air dry your hair, load it up with sugar pie and it will help to kind of tame the poofiness. So the vitamin C in action. So we know that the oil helps the hair. You can see in the images kind of like what a healthy hair looks like. It's got the cuticles that are pretty flat. The damaged hair, you see that the cuticles start to lift up more, kind of like dragon scales. And then the pure oil, you see that it's getting closer. This one doesn't have the vitamin C in it. It's getting closer to that healthy hair, but with the pure oil and the vitamin C together, that's the bottom photo, it's like even better than healthier hair. It is super, super smooth. The cuticle is crazy healthy. That's what we're going for. And these photos were taken after 60 minutes, but these results can happen as early as 15 minutes actually. So um, so again, we got that reaction, and the hair became hydrophobic, which is waterproof. So if you live in a humid climate, if you anticipate that you might go out in the rain or wash dishes, or and you got water spraying on you, then yeah, sugar pie can really help with that. Sorry about the quality of this image. It got a little blown up and fuzzy, but just kind of taking another look, I know I want the hair on the right. So this is after washing it. So this is applying the sugar pie and then washing it with a really aggressive shampoo, actually SLS. So think about more like your dish soap, like using Dawn on your hair. And it was still healthier, the image on the right. Than the one that was not treated. So you can see that when you use sugar pie, even after you wash it, those results are really long lasting. And then the base of the formula, the sugar derived, so this is really a silicone alternative. That's another thing we've been getting a lot of questions about. There is information about silicone there's a lot of different silicones. So um, I don't know that I can address all of them, but some of them can be less environmentally friendly, and some of them can also build up in the hair. So we always want to use silicone alternatives whenever we can, or silicones that are cleaner for the environment and better for your hair. So in this case, we decided to go silicone free, and this is the sugar derived alternative, and you can see that we actually, so this is on the left, untreated, both cases. The first hair is just initial, and then the second one, they put it in a humidity chamber. So it's like super, super humid, and to see what would happen. And then in the middle is actually the silicone, which does pretty well. And then on the right is you know what, I actually switched these. So this should be silicone and this should be sugar. I was like, that doesn't look right. Um, so the one in the middle is the sugar ingredient, and the one on the right is silicone. So it actually performed better than silicone. And the ingredient that we were looking at, the specific silicone, is dimethicone 350 centistick, which is really, really heavy. It's kind of like, the thick silicone serums that, I guess, most of us are used to using, really, for fighting frizz. That's the kind of technology that we were comparing it against. And then in terms of tangles, so one of my favorite ways to use sugar pie is on second or even third day hair, when my hair is really tangly and I'm like, I know I need to get through it, but my hair gets really tangly. So um, douse it with sugar pie, and it is so much easier to comb and brush through. So really, really, really helps to keep your hair, healthier longer, because those tangles, if you don't get them out, then it will cause breakage, and it just gets harder and harder. So I am a huge fan for anyone who has tangly hair. Sugar pie really helps you get those out. So it improves the resistance in combing when it's wet or dry. So um, dry, I just talked about dry, but wet as well. Like if you're out of the shower, you've got damp hair, sugar pie, again, really, really helps to get the brush through so you're not breaking it. And that helps you to essentially keep your hair healthier longer. And another benefit that we don't mention that often is color retention. So for those of us that color our hair, you can actually see your hair color last longer when you use this formula. They saw an actual 30% increase in color maintenance, and that's over the course of 20 washes, which is a lot of washes. I mean, I'm not going to do the math on that, but it could be months and months. Depends on how often you wash your hair, of course. So again, they compared it to silicone, and the sugar was on par. It's a really nice alternative too because it's environmentally friendly. So you don't have to worry about it, going down the drain when you wash it, like some of those heavier, less environmentally friendly silicones. And then the damage repair, of course, is amazing. One study that is really cool, comparing it to keratin. So I know that we have gotten feedback from people who are like, I don't really need to get the keratin treatments as often or at all anymore. And sugar pie definitely plays a huge part in that. So they have some great studies comparing that sugar derived ingredient to hydrolyzed keratin, which is what's used in a keratin treatment. And the nice thing about it is you don't get the side effects of getting a keratin treatment. You don't get that buildup of the keratin in the hair. That's one thing. If you get back-to-back keratin treatments, you can start to kind of get like an uneven distribution of keratin. Keratin on itself is good for the hair. It's when you repeatedly do it and then you start to get like more keratin here and less here, and then it creates again kind of like weaknesses in the hair, and that's when it breaks, it gets brittle. So if you can avoid keratin treatments, I mean, or even prolong the time between them, get them less frequently, then you're not going to get that kind of uneven distribution of keratin that can cause the breakage. So that's what we want. And then you'll also get an increased elasticity. So your hair stretches when you brush it, comb it, style it, braid it. And what keratin does is it helps to improve the elasticity. So does the sugar. So if you're looking for, that stronger hair, more resistant, not going to break, then the sugar pie is really good for that. And that is the end.
So cute. I love that photo. We actually were looking at that photo today. We're like, it's
Really?
so cute with all of your guys' pink gloves and all the lab people. It's always so cute.
Oh.
So cute. Thank you so much. I believe there was one question that someone had, and if anybody else has any more questions, leave them down below. But somebody asked, why would square root make someone's scalp oily or greasy?
That is a good question. Oily or greasy? There are no oils in the formula. So I am surprised to hear that. I can do a little more research and, see if I can come up with, a better answer for you. I'm not sure.
Yeah, there's probably a lot that goes into it too, whether they're like taking certain things, their diet changes, other shampoos they're using. If anything else changes, it probably affects a lot of things.
Mhm.
Someone said, let's see, one of my clients said sugar pie felt dry in her hair and wasn't understanding that. Any thoughts? The girl has super curly hair.
Hmm. Was she using it on damp hair or dry hair?
True.
I guess either way, I will say sugar pie has a different feel. So for somebody who might be expecting more of, that like heavier silicone that's much richer and coats the hair, then it is going to be a different feel for them. It is going to be kind of drier. But a lot of people like that because they get more volume and it really absorbs. So it could be kind of getting used to it. Um, yeah, I think, and she could also experiment with using more, maybe using more on damp hair, and then seeing how it is, when it dries. But I'm a big fan of sugar pie for curly hair. I have naturally curly hair, and it's just does wonders.
Yes, definitely. And maybe she wants to try a little bit with density. It can kind of thicken it up and have the cocktail could help a little bit too.
That's true. I love mixing density and sugar pie.
Me too. Those are like my ride or dies. Someone said, how would one apply to get a keratin effect? Apply to full shaft of hair as opposed to just ends?
Yes, yes. That is a good point. So yeah, I would apply it on damp hair. just in terms of like the ease of use. And you can really go up as, as high as you want. I would say just without getting it on your scalp, because it does absorb, and do it while it's, damp, and then just brush it through style, whether you're, whether you air dry or heat. Um, it'll still give you that keratin effect. Because the study, believe the study was, I will double check to make sure that I have the exact protocol of how they compared the keratin. So I'll let you know if it was heat or not. We will get back to you on that.
Yeah. And then someone just asked, I have a new customer who has been using Keratis and is going to Theorem. I know we talked about Keratis before. Can you compare these products to the Method products?
So yes, I have. I mean, I have talked a little bit about Kerastase before. They um, are owned by L'Oreal and use a lot of the same formulas, kind of with fancier packaging and fancier fragrances. But it's really kind of the same technology as all the L'Oreal hair products. So they tend to be. I mean, I personally see the Kerastase brand as like you're paying more for the brand and kind of like um, the nice packaging, and the the fragrances and everything, but I don't find their technology to be that amazing. I would say I could there's a ton of products, so under that brand, so it's difficult for me to go through, each one of them. But in general, I feel like there are a lot of brands out there that you're kind of like in the prestige space where you're really kind of paying more for, like, less for the science and more for the pretty bottle, which I've never been a big fan of, because I feel like you can get a pretty bottle anywhere, but the really, the good science and the strong data, that's, what's really helps your hair.
Yeah, definitely. Someone said, I see square root being sprayed on in some demos instead of putting the nozzle against the scalp. Which way is correct?
I prefer, well, it kind of depends, because it depends on how much of the thickening effect that you want to get at the roots. Some people like a lot of it, so I would spray it all around the roots and, kind of up to your ears. Other people just want it directly on the scalp, and if you're okay with spraying it right on there, that's fine. I don't feel like it gets it as even when you do that, but you could massage it really well in. For people who have frizzier hair, massaging your hair can sometimes like kick up some of the frizz. So I, like to spray it kind of from far away all around so I know it's getting it evenly. Otherwise, between, like on dry hair, I like to spray it on my fingertips, and that way I can kind of like bypass my hair and go to the scalp and get it where I need it. Um, so it's personal preference, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, what is the best way we should tell our clients to use sugar pie and how often?
I use it every day. I use it on damp hair. I use it on dry hair. I mean, you can use a ton of it on damp hair, and brush it in, and that's when you really got those strong, repair effects. Rivaling the keratin and the silicones, and then just kind of on in between, wash days, I like to use it on dry hair, kind of more towards the ends and any tangly areas. Despite my greatest efforts, I've got like the satin pillowcase and everything. And like, I always wake up with like so many tangles in the back of my hair. And what I do is I just put the sugar pie in it and then brush it, and it comes right out. I haven't found anything else that really works to help me with that. So dry hair, and then of course the ends of the hair, you can use it on your ends every day, and you can use a lot of it. And it really, for anyone who is trying to reduce their split ends, sugar pie will just totally save them.
Yes.
Um, And so, yeah, I think that's all the ways to use it.
Yeah. They asked the same question for square root. Would they use that daily as well in their daily routine?
Yes, absolutely. I recommend using that, as the most on kind of like damp hair, and then kind of in between days you can do it either on your fingertips or mist around, kind of depending on your hair type.
Yeah.
And and yeah, I do know some people who feel like they've kind of like gotten to their desired results with square root, and then they just use it maybe every other day, and they're happy with it and it sustains their results. So, you can also kind of play around with it if you feel like it's working for you, and like you're okay missing a day, then if it works for you, then great.
I know. I love always telling people to find your method because the method is so versatile that it's just kind of fun to play around to see what best works for you and your hair type and just even your routine. Someone asked, will sugar pie ever come in a spray bottle?
So quite possibly, yes, we are actually looking at that currently. So yeah, some people prefer to be able to spray it. We've tested it kind of both ways, and but yes, I think that we are going to be making that change.
And then someone asked, can someone use Theorem products with a sensitive skin and scalp?
Um, I would think so. I again, if it's just like sensitive skin is not generally a diagnosis. Like if somebody has a condition like eczema where they tend to react and get irritated, that's one thing where I would say check with your doctor. Sensitive skin tends to be kind of more like self-diagnosed. Like, you know you tend to be more sensitive to certain products, get a little redness, maybe itching. Doesn't necessarily signal an allergy. A lot of times it can just be due to a impaired skin barrier, actually. So a lot of people with sensitive skin actually just have dry skin, or they have a weakened skin barrier. So, and that's something that square root can actually help, because it has probiotics and because it has hyaluronic acid. So it can help to build up the skin barrier. So it might actually help them. It's always worth a try. In terms of, if they're not interested in, gambling with square root and having that on their scalp, the density in the sugar pie aren't going to touch your scalp. So they can absolutely use those. Um, so yeah, those are really just meant for your hair. So if you have sensitive skin, I don't see how there would be an issue using those ones.
Yeah, definitely. Someone asked about PEGs. So basically, we use them in some of our products. They were just questioning about them and all of that.
Yes, PEG, so polyethylene glycol. There's some talk about PEGs and 1,4-dioxane. So certain PEGs can contain, higher levels of 1,4-dioxane. Certain PEGs contain lower levels of 1,4-dioxane. And also the levels vary depending on which company you get them from. So we do a very deep analysis when we use PEGs to make sure that we're using the cleanest ones at the lowest levels. And we are so far from the percentages that would even be flagged by any country's regulations or any clean lists. So yeah, we have very, very, very low levels of 1,4-dioxane, which is also the same kind of concern that happens with any kind of surfactant systems. A lot of different ingredients out there. So yeah, we are well under. We're talking under 1 part per million, so point 0.0000%. Really, 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 really low.
Perfect. We have time for two more questions and then we will close out and we will write these questions for next time. But someone asked, I have a customer who is using the Method and Infinity Duo. She has been using these products since December. Now, every time she uses square root, her scalp itches. Is there a reason for this? No redness, any input?
Hmm. And it only started happening after using. Okay, so she's used it all together, it sounds like.
Yeah, the Method and Infinity Duo.
Yeah, that's too bad. So no redness, there's itching. I'm not sure, but any kind of itching in general, I mean, you don't want to be uncomfortable, so I would stop using it. It could also be just the dryness of winter and kind of going back to that skin barrier thing again. When our skin is really dry, it just anything can bother it. I don't know. Even water can bother your skin if it's that dry and impaired, and you have to kind of like gradually work up to using different products on it. She could try it, maybe when the humidity levels are up or when winter is over and see if that still happens and see if it's seasonally related. Otherwise, I would just tell her to stop using it.
Awesome. So last question, how do our products, mostly the shampoo and conditioner, work with hard water? I know we've talked about hard and soft water before. Can it make the hair more difficult to brush or would it work as normal?
Well, hard water in general is always a challenge with hair because our hair likes to be at a lower pH, our hair and our skin. And hard water can make your hair just feel really, really dry. Um, So what our conditioners and our shampoos do is they use a lower pH system, so that helps to really smooth out the hair and kind of combat the effects of hard water on your hair. So the our shampoos should really help with that as well as the conditioners and density. Density is really good for combating hard water. One of my favorites, actually. Um, so, so yeah, hard water tends to have a higher pH, and then soft water tends to have a lower pH. But it's interesting because soft water, you think like, oh, well, that would automatically be better for your hair, but it can make people get the sensation that their hair is like over conditioned or slimy, so then
Mhm.
I use a ton of shampoo to try to get that feeling out, and then they end up drying out their hair. So, whether it's really soft or really hard, they both have their issues, but the system will help to kind of bring your hair's pH back to where it wants to be for it to be really healthy and strong and aligned.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Zoe, for being here. We appreciate all of your advice and education on everything. We do have these monthly again. So your next one will be March 18th. Let us know if you have any questions. Reach out to your hair specialist if she invited you. Let her know how amazing this was and if you would like a reminder from her for future events. So thank you, everyone. It was great talking about all the products, especially sugar pie, because it's actually my favorite. I'm not going to say that or anything, but it is my favorite. So it makes me super excited to talk about it. Yeah, thank you, Zoe.
Thanks, Sarah. Always good to see you.
Always good to see you too. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.